Визы мы можем достать в любую страну мира, куда вы только с семьей захотите уехать.
А 2 боеголовки?
Только 2.
Только 2.
John, get the counterterrorism group to the Situation Room. We may have some loose nuclear material to deal with.
So how likely is it that a terrorist group could carry out a nuclear attack?
It's the old low probability, high impact event. There isn't any doubt in the minds of most analysts that a terrorist group such as Al-Qaeda would not hesitate to use a nuclear weapon if it were able to steal one, or if it were able to fashion one out of vulnerable nuclear materials from any number of hundreds of sites around the world. So we are trying to protect against this most devastating kind of attack that we can possibly envision.
The old terrorists wanted to preserve themselves. They didn't want to kill themselves, but the new terrorists are willing to kill themselves as part of the commission of the terrorist act. So that changes the calculus dramatically.
One thing most people don't realize about nuclear material that you can use to make a nuclear bomb is that while it's radioactive, it's not very radioactive. You can actually pick it up in your bare hands. You can carry around highly enriched uranium in your pocket, in your briefcase, and not have any serious problem with it. If you've got enough highly enriched uranium, literally what it's about is slamming 2 pieces together at high enough speed. I did a calculation some years ago with colleagues of what would happen if a crude nuclear explosive equivalent to 10 what are called kilotons, that is 10,000 tons of conventional explosive, were to go off at Grand Central Station on a typical workday. And we estimated something of the order of 500,000 near-term deaths, that is not counting the fallout deaths. And we estimated something in the order of $1 trillion in direct damage, that is just the damage of buildings destroyed and the things in them and the lives of the people.
Recognition of the threat is still an important challenge. We need to be careful. We shouldn't hype the threat too much, nor should we undersell it.
It's not easy to develop a nuclear weapon. It's not easy to develop a biological weapon that is usable in any sort of mass casualty incident. And so in many cases, I think that the threat is overblown. But there's a caveat to that. Despite the fact that the threat may be low, the possibility may be low, the consequences of that occurring are so large and so unimaginable for any of us that if we are not going full out to prevent that possibility, then we, I think, are underserving the American people and indeed the international community in not making them safer.
America and the world would be transformed forever and not for the better. Kofi Annan, when he was Secretary General of the United Nations, said, this isn't science fiction, I wish it were. And he went on to say that if it happened, the economic reverberations throughout the world would be so bad that it would push millions of people into poverty and create what he called a second death toll in the developing world. So this is really not just a threat to the United States where a bomb might go off, but a threat to everyone, everywhere.
The good news, Bunn says, is there is no indication terrorist groups have been able to acquire the knowledge or materials to make a nuclear device. And making nuclear materials, such as highly enriched uranium, is beyond the plausible capabilities of terrorists.
So they're going to have to steal it from somewhere or get a state to consciously decide to give it to them. If we lock down this material, which we can do at reasonable cost in a reasonable amount of time, we can drastically reduce the risk that this material can ever fall into terrorist hands.
The only way to stop them from exploding a nuclear bomb is to keep the components out of their hands. No nuclear materials, no nuclear weapons, no nuclear terrorism.